presiding judges of our courts across the country, honorable judges of the High Court, our Chief Registrar, the magistrates present to facilitate this occasion, the registrars here, Teresa Muganza, the country director of the IDLO, the facilitators and the presenters already present. Good morning. I have to say that I did not know that we were scared of coming to Mombasa. But if we were, then I'm so glad that so many of us are here present. Because I know the numbers in the High Court. And even though I may not be a fast counter, I can already count more than half the judges, in fact more than 3/4 of the judges of the High Court are physically present. Thank you very much for being here. As I try to remain traditional in terms of the presentation, let me also say that I am not sure of a more opportune occasion for us to bond than this present occasion. I miss those days when we would freely have our annual colloquium without wondering whether, like now I don't know whether I'm supposed to be speaking with my mask on or off, whether what I'm touching is safe for me or not, but the Lord God will sort that out for me. I am delighted to be here this morning and happy to have been invited. You know, Principal Judge, you know you could have invited anyone else, but it is me you invited, and so I thank you. I have looked at the theme for this year, and it looks to me like the dual theme of this year's conference is performance improvement, navigating the new normal in dispute resolution. Looks to me like two things. This theme is particularly apt in the institution's current circumstances as we navigate the current leadership transition whilst continuing to engage with the unique challenges the judiciary faces during the unprecedented global COVID-19 pandemic. In regard to your performance, and more particularly to its improvement, this transition period allows us to look back and take stock of our achievements and setbacks in implementing the strategic blueprint that is the SJT, a service delivery agenda for the period 2017-2021. This evaluation will contribute to the platform upon which the incoming Chief Justice will chart the course for the institution to further progress on its journey of transformation. In regard to the new normal imposed on us by the ongoing pandemic, it allows us to assess and improve our strategies to mitigate the impacts of the pandemic on the effective and efficient delivery of justice. My colleague judges, allow me, if I may, to reflect further on the performance scorecard that has previously been presented by Her Ladyship, our Principal Judge for the High Court. As at January 2017, when SJT was rolled out, there were about 58,487 cases older than 5 years. Between then and December 2020, 70,453 cases have been resolved, leaving the number currently standing at 6,995 cases that are 5 years and older. This represents a reduction of 88%. If anybody in this room is not clapping, I don't know what you are waiting for. That, by any standards, is a fantastic job indeed. For the period 2018-2019, the case clearance rate target in criminal cases was some 84.6%. I'm glad to report that you surpassed this target and achieved a rate of 112%. In the same period, your case clearance rate target in civil cases was 97.5. Again, you surpassed this target and achieved 157. This high level of productivity is mirrored in your merit productivity rating. Target for the 2018-2019 was 126. Instead, you achieved 170 in merit-based determinations. If that's not evidence of hard work, I do not know what is. However, the Directorate of Planning and Organizational Performance, DPOP and Dr. Kimalu, they have here caseload statistics that their report for half year 2020-2021, covering the period 1st July 2020 to that 1st December 2020, shows a total of 10,646 cases filed against some 7,700 cases resolved during that period. As at June 2020, there were a total of some 89,415 pending cases in the High Court, and this increased to 92,530 pending cases as at December 2020. With the case clearance rate at an average of 72% across the High Court, despite the best efforts from judges and judicial officers in the High Court, judicial officers in the names of the registrars that do our taxations and stuff like that, case backlog is unfortunately increasing. In the above referenced period, case backlog for matters 5 years and older has seen a 3.4% increase. Indeed, with a workload per judge of 1064 cases against a current rate of about 180 matters per year per judge, it is clear that despite our best efforts, this, unfortunately, will only continue. We just had our PJ on that one. My colleague judges, I am well aware of the challenges that you face in tackling case backlog in our courts. Most debilitating amongst these are significant financial and human resource deficits. We must, however, continue to optimize the utility of the limited methods and resources that we have. According to the above cited DPOP report, the leading reason for adjournments during that reporting period was the court is not sitting, 25%. And the unfortunate bit about the court not sitting is the fact that our clients do not know that the court is not sitting. And so, they don't plan to do other things. Instead, they do log in. And for those of us who are still doing physical hearings, I'll come to that slightly later, they come, but they don't find us because the court is not sitting, 25%. That's the data we got from DPOP. There are, in my view, therefore, steps that we can take even in our current circumstances to improve as an institution. There are steps we can take to improve as an institution. SJT told us, and it is reflected in our strategic plan, in the judiciary strategic plan for the period 2019-2023, that we must continue to improve our individual work methods and concurrently improve our organizational culture. As I am sure you are no doubt aware, the judiciary is implementing the organization review report for the period since 2018 and going forwards. And right now, we are dealing with improving administrative support to judges and magistrates, with the appointment of the new committees, the standing committees that were formed towards the end of the tenure of Emeritus C.J. Maraga, and which we informed you about in January this year. The judiciary leadership structure is also being revamped to improve decision-making processes, strengthen the synergy between court and the administrative structures, improve reporting, bringing up and follow-up systems to ensure representative and equitable memberships in those leadership committees. In terms of delivery of judgments and rulings within a period of 60 days, your initial target was 95.9. You achieved 67.5. The target was 95.9. You achieved 67.5 challenges. Now, PJ, I expect that we are going to be discussing that and getting it resolved in a manner that this particular item alone does not bring us down. My story has been one of praises up to that point. This one item of deliveries cannot be allowed to spoil our otherwise good record. I urge you, therefore, even as you endeavor to more efficiently manage your judicial work, to engage and support these efforts of participating in the streamlining of judiciary operations and management, because in my view, it is we who can tell our story. We, not some outsider there, we. So let's get seriously involved in the administrative aspects of the judiciary. Otherwise, somebody else will do it for us. They've done it in the past for us. There must be a reason why we now are changing, because we saw that that wasn't working. So can we together do the judicial function as well as the administrative aspect? That is why at your interviews, because I think most of you in this room came through to the judiciary through those interviews, the Judicial Service Commission sought to find out what your management capabilities were. As the leadership in all court stations, judges must be at the forefront of reorienting the management culture across the judiciary. That's what I'm talking about. From efficiently and judiciously controlling all aspects of cases brought before us, to effective administration of our courtrooms and registries, more particularly the registries. And I'm talking to each one of us, not just the PJs, each one of us. I would like to know a judge who was not PJ in terms of the principal judge, PJ in terms of the presiding judge in our courts across the country, another judge who walked to the registry to get things sorted, because that's one of our weakest links and was stopped. I would like to know who that judge is, and I would like to know who stopped that judge. And so I'm saying to us today, we will only succeed if we do this thing together. There is no division of labor in terms of getting it right in the judiciary, both in the judicial function and in that administrative function. That's my submission to us this morning. You play the very central role in positively transforming the mindset and the culture in the administration of justice towards equality, efficiency, and quality. Colleague judges, the coronavirus outbreak has transformed our world in profound ways. Thus far, the judiciary has done a great job in mitigating the impacts of coronavirus, whilst ensuring to the greatest extent possible minimum disruption of access to justice for the Kenyans that we serve, for the Kenyans that pay our salaries. Most notable among us these has been the acceleration in the leveraging of digital technology in court operations. Teresa, thank you very much. Thank you very much, IDLO. Our registrars and the Directorate of ICT, particularly Elizabeth, have gone a long way to enable court systems to function virtually where that has been possible and appropriate. The Office of the Chief Registrar is currently developing a business continuity and disaster recovery plan to ensure that the institution is better prepared to deal with such severe situations as pandemics and other calamities. We at the judiciary leadership continue to monitor our response to the COVID-19 pandemic on a day-to-day basis, ensuring the functioning of the judicial system and access to services. Hence the reason I have been traveling across and coming to your courts without your permission. I actually didn't think that I needed your permission. I still don't think I need your permission. I shall do this for as long as I'm around. I shall come to those courts to ensure that what Nairobi thinks is being done in the courts across the country is being done, and my walking around includes the courts in Nairobi. We continue to remain committed to keeping our people safe by providing access to personal protective equipment such as masks and sanitizers, and keeping all our court users safe within our court precincts. I hope, Anne, you are not going to let us down on this one, even within your limited budget, through adherence to the Ministry of Health guidelines and protocols. The courts are also doing their part in regard to the wider justice sector COVID-19 strategy by increasing the use of alternatives to pre-trial detention and improvement to support decongestion of detention facilities, as well as enhancing avenues for diversion of matters such as through the ADR and AJS. There's continued need, however, for adaptation at operational and leadership levels. All of us in this room are the leaders of the important institution of the judiciary. We need to constantly assess the effectiveness of our interventions and improve them as we go along, so as to optimize their effectiveness and maximize their impact. I have no doubt that your deliberations on this issue later in the conference will elucidate further strategies that will enable us to do so, and thus not only overcome this unprecedented health crisis, but emerge from it as an even more efficient, agile, and responsive judiciary. At this point, we must ask ourselves the hard questions. And I have one hard question. Schools at all levels in this country have opened. Churches and mosques and other places of divine worship have also opened. Supermarkets never quite closed. Yet, here at the judiciary, the great number of us, according to information that reaches me, and I like what PJ said about the information that reaches me, some of it good, some of it bad, some of it true, some of it not true. But according to that information that has reached me, a lot of us are still closed to what I would call real and proper hearings. Witnesses are not being heard in many of our court stations, physically or indeed even virtually. On this one, my friends, something has got to give. For how long shall we remain behind closed doors when everywhere else is open? Those other people don't follow the Ministry of Health guidelines. How many of them have been brought to our courts to be tried because they didn't adhere to those Ministry of Health protocols? I don't say this because it is easy. I know the challenges we have with infrastructure. I also know that the CRJ does not have enough money to put tents everywhere. But I say it nevertheless, because in the same society, schools are open, places of worship are open. And we are part of this society. We attend funerals. We've been attending weddings. We've been attending other social events. And you know, leadership is not a publicity contest. It's not a feel-good situation. If you want to be a leader and you're still seeking to be popular, I think you need to rethink that your wish. And so I ask us to kindly consider that hard question and say to ourselves, what with the limited infrastructure we have in our courts, can we do to get witnesses giving evidence, virtually or physically? I am aware myself of the many cases that have been adjourned because we have stopped. I get all the time, and you know, my phone number is a public booth. I get complaints, both as the Judiciary Ombudsman and now our Acting Chief Justice. And even in my capacity as DCJ, I continued to get these things. I know they'll continue to come. I get on my phone all manner of complaints. Oh, we went to this court, we were not told, people were not sitting. We went to this court and we were not heard, we were not allowed. One I got last night was they came to one of our courts and they were not allowed past the gate. So when we are not hearing and taking this evidence, you notice I'm saying physically and virtually almost at the same level? What are we doing to demeanor, for instance? What are we doing to case backlog creation? We did not bring COVID-19, but the people to find solution for COVID-19 is in terms of access to justice. Those people are sitting in this room. Because if we are not the PJs, we are the judges who supervise the magistracy at our stations. For me, the courts cannot remain closed to physical hearings for very much longer. But I'm asking us to give this our very serious thoughts. Where I am wrong, show me that I am wrong. Where you think we have come to the end of innovation, show me that. Show me that in our collective minds, we cannot find a way to improve hearings. These matters that we are continually adjourning have another name, and it is called case backlog creation, and we shall deal with it for the remainder of our lives, so that when the new Chief Justice arrives, that will in fact be their entry point. That will be an issue they will have to deal with. And even as we wish to have as our collective vision the expeditious resolution of disputes with total integrity in all its elastic meaning, that has no meaning if we are not putting strategies in place to hear cases in their totality. Thank you, my sister Principal Judge, for your continued leadership in the High Court, and for kindly having invited me to be here today. As I said earlier, you could have invited anyone else. I sincerely hope that our next 3 days here will be worth the while. I wish I had the time to interact with all of us, because some things cannot be said here. Usually we say them out there, but you know how busy it is to be in my present position, running 4 offices at one go, and running my personal life, where I have understandably been kept exceedingly busy. Nevertheless, I urge us to engage robustly and constructively with each other, because you have an excellent program over these next few days. I have looked at it, and that's what I've been speaking to these last few minutes. COVID-19 notwithstanding. As I close my many remarks, I want to once again thank most sincerely, through Teresa, the IDLO, for facilitating this conference. Without you, we surely would not have been in Mombasa today. We thank you also for your continued critical support to us, and I hope you are doing something about our meeting last week between you and I. It is true when we say that we cannot thank you enough, but can only pray that the Almighty God will continue to be kind to you as an organization, to you as the organization's director, and to this institution for endeavoring to, in very difficult circumstances, bring justice to the people of Kenya. With those very many words, it is my pleasure and privilege to declare this our conference officially opened. Thank you very much.
A round of applause. In her usual character, the acting Chief Justice does not disappoint, direct and focused. And yes, I call upon you, dear brothers and sisters, to be adaptive, agile, and responsive. Those are the three words I picked from your leadership. Adaptive, agile, which is very, very, very flexible, and responsive. And one of the things you are called upon to respond to during the next 3 days is how shall we get back to hearing witnesses so that the case backlog does not grow. It is real. We must face it direct. Ladies and gentlemen, we now are called upon to do two things, and we need to decide how quickly we will do it. We have caught up on time. We haven't lost too much time. We will go out near, what is it called, Makutano? Back here. There are some stairs. We'll have a photo session. Then we'll have tea. May I suggest we try and do this within 20 minutes? And then get back so tuanze kazi iliyotuleta hapa. Karibuni sana. 20 minutes please. Thank you.
But it is also indeed done. My lady, as IDLO, we want to reiterate our commitment to our partnership with the judiciary. As indicated earlier, we believe that it is important to continue to support innovation and ensure that access to justice becomes a reality, not just for those that have resources in the context of commerce, but also particularly for women and children. And I think our work, including within the family division, has been evidence of this. My lady, it is my sincere gratitude to yourself, all the judges here present, the CRJ, the Registrar High Court, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for permitting us as IDLO to be participants in this august conference. It is our expectation that as we continue to participate, we will also be able to, at the end of this workshop, to having understood, appreciated, and learned of the different innovative approaches that have been developed in access to ensure ease to access to justice and in delivering justice for all. I wish you all fruitful deliberations, and I wish us successful deliberations over the next 3 days. Thank you very much.
Madam Teresa, thank you very, very much indeed. The only thing you forgot to tell us is which part of Luhia land you come from. Maybe next time. It is now my singular honor and privilege to welcome the Honorable Principal Judge, who will address us and then thereafter call upon her ladyship, the Acting Chief Justice. Principal Judge, I got it. Tumkaribishe na makofi.
The Honorable Acting Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Lady Justice Mphilomena Mwilu, presiding judges and fellow judges, the Country Director, IDLO, Ms. Teresa Mugaza, the Chief Registrar, the Judiciary, members of staff, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
You don't know how happy I am to see you here today. My lady, until just last week, we were still debating back and forth with them because it's a democracy there, whether we should come or they should just be online. And my worry was that because those that I traveled with, I saw them carrying two suitcases, one suitcase of clothes and another one of files. So I knew if we leave them at home, they'll be listening online, but they'll have a file next to them, and within a few minutes, we'll have lost them to the file. So I am very happy to see you all here, that I know the anxieties are real about the times we are going through, and that for you to have decided that you could travel and come here to be with us, I am really honored. And my lady, for you also to have decided to come, I know that the Supreme Court has been sitting this week. For you to be able to take time out of that to come and be with us, we don't take it for granted. We know that you are committed to standing with the judges to make sure that the different parts of the facets of the judiciary work very well. So we really, really thank you for honoring us. Also would like to thank Ms. Mugaza, because the minute she came in, she actually hit the ground running and didn't stop where Mavezenge, the one we had nicknamed Mavenge, had stopped. She started off by supporting us, and part of the things we are talking about are the highlights that we are giving. We are developing, for example, the handbook that we have developed, it is with their support. The strategic plan and the practice directions that we have developed and will be the judges will interact with them tomorrow and the day after, it has also been with their support. So I really, really thank them, because even for us to conference here, you know that we have had a lot of challenges financially, my lady, in the judiciary. It's the IDLO that has made this happen. So I just thank them on behalf of all the judges. Fellow judges, as I have said, I thank you for coming today, so that we can speak with each other. Today we are not going to learn, in these sessions, we are not going to learn about Gela versus Kasman and the injunctions, that the JTI can help us identify which ones of those we want to learn. Here it's just to see how the High Court is working, so that we can share from each other the good practices which work somewhere else and what doesn't work, so that we are all moving forward. The High Court judges bear the very heavy workload of about 1,156 cases per judge. If you look at Mr. Kimalu's report, that is how much work each one of you is supposed to be bearing. Despite the heavy workload, you have handled it every day, you have handled it very well, and you have remained steadfast even in the COVID pandemic period. Colleagues, extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. The COVID-19 period, since it started, it has been a public health emergency forced on us, and it has forced us to implement rapid response measures and sometimes to adjust existing measures to ensure that Kenyans access justice. Indeed, the COVID pandemic created extraordinary circumstances for the administration of justice. As a result, we have had to adapt to the changing context by adopting the use of technology in delivery of justice. It has been a challenge sometimes because we don't have enough. For example, the bandwidth in Nairobi has been a problem, but we have worked with it. I have seen judges who are actually having to do their certificates in the night because we can't all be able to be served by the bandwidth during the day. I have seen those that come in very early in the morning so that they are able to work between 7:30 and 9:30 before the rest of the team gets onto the platform. Please clap for yourself because of thinking outside the box. People have had to devise methods of being able to serve the people that come before them. Today, we gather to objectively dialogue and strategically come up with a plan on how we want to move forward so that we don't lose any of the gains that we have made. This retreat accords us a chance to introspect, to see what we have done, to do it better, and what we have not done and what we can implement. Colleagues, we continue to make milestones in our service delivery. For example, now we are using e-filing, and the uptake, my lady, on e-filing has been good, so that a total of 30,060 cases have been remotely registered via e-filing. That's a big number, because in the beginning, everybody was worried, how will Kenyans, if we say we are going e-filing, how will the Kenyans be able to interact? 30,000 of cases is a big number. Then a total of 2,335 law firms have registered as e-filing. They now continuously just file by e-filing. Under the case tracking system, we have implemented, this has been implemented in 126 of our stations, that's the high courts and the lower courts. A total of 878,000 cases have been captured by the CTAs. That's a huge number. The scanning process is still going on in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and the scanning is facilitated by the Ministry of ICT, because we cannot do this on our own. It's a big exercise. On the case backlog, my lord, the court has been leading from the front in backlog reduction. As at June 2020, we had a total of 69,419 cases, down from 172,777. Please clap for yourself. My lady, I know from the office where you sit, you will receive good reports, but you'll also receive bad reports and not so good reports. But when you receive the bad ones, let them not eclipse the good things they have done. This is a very huge drop from what we had before to where what we have come. Of course, it was affected towards the last half of the year because of the COVID pandemic, but we moved to 69,000 from 172. That's a very big difference. As at December 2020, we have 92,000 because there has been a bit of a rise, because we were not able to hear the ones who need to be heard physically. But they have worked a lot on the petitions, on the appeals, on the applications, that they can interact with the advocates without having people come to court. So there has been a lot of improvement. For the service weeks, my lady, we had to divide it into 3 groups because we didn't have finances. And the CRJ knows we have been at her door throughout. I think she sees us and she says, oh my Lord, please, what else can I now do for them? She doesn't have enough finances, but she has been able to work with us. We had a lot of stations prepared to do service week. Service week is what helps us, my lady, to actually bring down these numbers. But by the time we were ready, we found that we had money to only do like a third of what we had planned. So we opted to take the stations with the biggest load. So Nairobi, for example, was left out. It has a big load, but the stations out there, the old stations, usually have had a historical problem. So we went to those ones. We did them in September, and then we have planned others for April. But even as we stand here, we still don't have the funds, so we don't even know whether April will go ahead. I know, for example, Justice Mabea has prepared, and he just keeps asking, has the money come, has the money come? My Lord, the money has not come. Because the exchequer that was released is able just for us to be able to pay judges that already did the work and had not been paid. So unless we get something slightly more than what was already there, we may not even be able to do that which helps us to actually make a difference in the backlog. So when we talk about backlog reduction, we can't just blame the judiciary and the judges, whatever. It costs us. And people must be able to put money where their mouths are. It costs us to be able to bring the backlog down. Because if, my lady, a station has 1 judge, no matter how much that judge works, even if they work until 1 a.m., alone they cannot manage. So that's how we send the other judges to be able to help during vacation, so that they are not being taken from their cost list. But without money, even that judge can't go, the driver can't be facilitated, so it becomes a bit of a problem. So the service weeks, we are still waiting to see if we get an exchequer that will be able to help us to support the April one. And then the next one, we had actually put it in July. So it will depend on whether we get money to be able to help. For example, Meru, I saw Judge Murithi had written, but we have no funds. The court annexed mediation was doing very well, so that in 2018 to 2019, we had 2,095 matters referred for mediation. In 2019 to 2020, we had 3,539 cases referred for mediation. And in 2020-2021, the number dropped because people were not willing to go for mediation where they have to meet and get a stranger sitting there. So we will have to put our heads together to see what else can we do so that the number doesn't drop the way it dropped in the last half of last year. Court annexed mediation is one of the things we are going to discuss as a substantive issue. Then on the standardization of practice and procedure, the High Court again has made milestones towards the standardization of processes and procedures in the courts and at the registries. In the financial year 2013-2014, my lady, you will remember that SIDA, that is Swedish International Development Corporation, and the GIZ had helped us to develop registry manuals. But even with the use of those manuals, we found that there's still some inadequacies somewhere. So when I had a meeting with the presiding judges in Nairobi and the LSK, the Nairobi bench, there was a feeling that we need to come up with some practice directions that will help us to have some sort of uniformity. So somebody going to a court, let's say in Kakamega or in Kitui, doesn't find that the system there is different. The manner you approach the court is different from if you're in Nairobi or you're in Kisumu or Mombasa, so that there's some sort of uniformity. And I had put together a small team to come up with the draft. This has been the input of the LSK itself, the input of the judges, the presiding judges. So we are coming here to sensitize the judges who are here today so that we can also see what else they would want in those practice directions. And my Lord, again, as I said, this was also supported by the IDLO. And I thank you, my lady, because you are the one that gave us the authority to go ahead and send the small team somewhere to retreat and be able to work on them. Because it's not easy if we bring a document like that to a big number like this to be able to get all the issues. But when a few judges have worked on it, it's easy to get the core issues so that now it can be put to the rest of the plenary. And that also goes for our strategic plan. The strategic plan was delayed in starting because we were waiting for the corporate plan. We couldn't start with ours before we know what the corporate plan is looking like, because we need to align ours as the High Court with the corporate one. They will also interact with that strategic plan here as the program goes on. My lady, also, as you know, we have been affected by transfers in the last 4 months. We have had about 32 judges move, and that is another thing that also now impacts on case backlog, because there are cases which will be left behind which were halfway done, and where they are going, they have to take a bit of time to settle in. But I just want to thank the judges. They have moved without complaints. It's usually a big problem when you have to relocate your family and start looking for new schools for those who are in the lower age brackets, or start looking for where else to live. But my lady, they have gone and they have started working without any complaint. So that's on the transfers. For legal researchers, I thank you, my lady, again, because the JSC was able to recruit legal researchers. They are still in the process of, most judges, I think, now have legal researchers. But for those that don't have, we will still be getting, the feedback for any judge that doesn't have, so that we can see if there's somewhere we can be able to redistribute. So, my Lord, we are actually on course. I know that there will still be a bit of a complaint here and there, because, as you know, the numbers are small. I had made a request, I think it's now 2 years, requesting for more judges, and we are still praying that our judges who are able to be nominated by, to go through the interviews by the JSC and were found suitable for the Court of Appeal, we are still praying that they will go to the Court of Appeal. But when the JSC gets a chance, we still need those hands. Because, my Lord, if you look at the report of Mr. Kimalu, you will see that in some stations, you have any station that has more than 2,000 cases shouldn't have 1 or 2 judges. It's really a challenge for those judges to manage those stations. So we may need like another 30 judges. We are not asking to fill the whole establishment of 200 judges. We are just asking to be taken to about 100 or 110 so that we can be able to discharge our duties well, so that Kenyans don't have to come to court, then be given a date that is 6 months away because the judges just can't give them a nearer date because of the workload. The other things, my lady, we will discuss them as we are going along. We want to find a way forward to see what it is we can do better as we go on. But I think your judges have worked, my lady. For the most part, we have done well. Where we have had challenges, I know, like in Nairobi, for example, in the criminal division, we may have had a challenge because they have no place where the judges can sit and be able to communicate with the prisons if they are not being brought, if the prisoners are not being brought, because we set up 2 tents outside, but those 2 tents are being used by all the 7 divisions for any time when that court requires people that must come in to give testimony, because for the rest of the time we use we are using our electronic media. But for the ones that want to come in, especially like for murder, we have a problem there. So we are going to try and find out how to accommodate them, because for the murder ones, the witnesses want to be there. They want to come. The prisoners don't feel comfortable cross-examining people. They can only see half the head, or they can only see 1 ear is missing. They want to see the person who's saying they did this or they didn't do. So that has been a bit of a challenge, but we are working towards it. We had requested even for more tents, but even that, we couldn't even get enough funds just to buy tents to accommodate for a division like that. So we share courtrooms where a court is not sitting. We have said, please find out which court is not sitting, because the courts on the ground floor, the public health told us they are not well ventilated. So the judges in the criminal division cannot use their courts because they are the ones on the ground floor, and they are not very well, the air circulation is not good. So they will need to use the courts on the upper floors. And then that problem is now about transporting the prisoners in the corridors up to come to the upper floors. It's given us a challenge. So my lady, so that I don't take so much time, because we want to hear from you, I just want to leave my colleagues with a quote of Justice J.B. Ojwang, Professor of the Supreme Court of Kenya, as he then was. This is how he described the High Court. He said, it's the centerpiece of the machinery of justice, the modern superior court, with practically unlimited jurisdiction in all matters justiciable, the premier mechanism for the resolution of all grave and weighty matters, the first appellate court from the raft of magistrates' courts, as well as the various tribunals and Kadis courts, the National Constitutional Court, determining the numerous claims founded on the Constitution, the first and last court, in practical terms, for all matters, even where such matters are further appealable. So my lords and my ladies, as you think about yourself, look at what an onerous task rests on our shoulders. If this is the description of what we do or who we are as the High Court, we are carrying the nation on our shoulders, because when we have to make those determinations, we are carrying the nation on our shoulders. I thank you all for coming again. I don't take it for granted. When I first saw the communications on our mtandao, I was worried that I might only find 10 people to come. But I'm seeing we are almost full house. But the ones who have not come have each told me what their personal problem is. So it's not that they were just scared of Corona. Each has an issue that made them not able to come. Thank you so much. Now, my lady, it's my pleasure to invite you to come and speak to your people, and again to thank you